Today we're talking about Victor Wembanyama, an athlete so physically unusual that the numbers around him barely make any sense. Wemby is listed at 7 foot 4 inches tall, and both his parents were 6 foot 6 and athletes themselves, so when you compare him to the general population or even the NBA, he sits entirely in his own tier. This first histogram of gray bars shows the distribution of heights in US male population, the average being 5 foot 10. Then shift over to the NBA players here in red, and the average jumps up to 6 foot 6. And then even further to the right is the wingspan, where the average jumps up to 6 feet 11 inches. If we look for Wemby, he sits at the very top of both charts on the right here, at 7 foot 4 with an 8 foot wingspan, meaning he sadly couldn't even stretch out on a king-size bed. The real story here is how he uses that frame on the court, and we pulled a set of sport radar data outside of the traditional box score to show how he's one of one. Let's start with defense on the left. In the restricted area, opponents shoot just 52% when he's the closest defender, which is nearly 15% lower than the league average shown here in black. Expand that to all 2-pointers in green, and in the final second before release, Wemby lowers the expected field goal percentage by 3.4%, essentially taking good shots and turning them into bad ones. Finally, there's what we call airspace. Using limb tracking data from Sport Radar, his touch height has been clocked at above 12 feet 51 times this season, more than anyone else by far. That lets him block floaters and even 3-point shots from distance. In fact, he has more than a dozen blocks this year when he was over 6 feet from the shooter at the moment the ball left their hands. Now when we shift over to offense on the right here, it's where Wemby really looks different from the others. To start, he's taken 1,026 dribbles this year, more than any other 7-footer in the league, and he's brought the ball across half court on over 7% of Spurs possessions, about twice the rate of any other player his size. You see, for most 7-footers, offensive play starts down in the paint, but for Wemby, it's from anywhere. 82% of his front court touches happen outside the key because he can score from every level, especially from deep, where 13% of his threes are taken more than 5 feet beyond the arc, a higher proportion than Steph Curry. It can feel like a lot of numbers, but the best way to understand it is to watch a Spurs game. He appears everywhere at once, and if you compare his stride length and reach to an average 5'10" person, the court effectively shrinks. If we math it out for the average person, it would feel like playing on a 61 by 32 foot court instead of 94 by 50, and shooting on an 8-foot hoop instead of 10. Wemby makes the geometry of basketball feel different, something you can only see when you look beyond the box score. So big thanks to Sport Radar for the in-depth data and research, and follow for more sports data visualizations.